What's a thing that is dangerously close to collapse that you know about? Most municipal water supplies in the U.S., especially in Florida and New Orleans. I work in the industry. It's terrible. The Florida citrus industry, specifically oranges, there is a fungus that is spreading and infecting groves across the state. Unfortunately, we have no way to kill the fungus. The only solution is to cut down all citrus trees within a certain radius of an infected tree. Many farmers are choosing to sell their farm rather than try to start all over. Former Florida citrus farmer here. The disease is called citrus greening, spread by the Asian citrus. Psyllid feeding on the tree, it takes roughly 2 years for an infected tree to show symptoms. By that time, it's already too late. The disease slowly chokes off the tree from taking in nutrients, crippling it, causing heavy fruit drop and smaller fruit size, eventually killing the tree. The disease has no cure and has already wiped out over 90% of the industry in Florida. The Colorado River is the main water supply for 3 states with major cities. Don't forget the volume of water from that river that the U.S. is obligated to let get to Mexico. That's why there is an entire valley in AZ with tile just under the surface. It's so that they can recoup the water that doesn't get taken up by the plants and send it back to the system or onto Mexico. In case you're curious, this valley is just outside Yuma and provides North America with the bulk of its lettuce during the winter months. The Rio Grande levees in El Paso's upper valley are old and need repair and will fail in a major flood. The low-lying suburbs in the upper valley were recently deemed to be in a FEMA floodplain. Just last week, a poor kid in Juarez was dragged by flash rain water after leaving school. The body was found a few days later. I was in Juarez when all this happened and wondered if El Paso would eventually have similar issues due to the levees. R.I.P. to Rafi. Factual information on the internet. There's a churn of created content that's being taken as fact and used as the basis for new articles and content. Sifting through information to validate it is already too much effort for many and will only become more difficult. Publicly traded companies constantly being like, we did good, not great. More money next quarter. Oh, that's good, not great. Even more money next quarter. In the 4 years I've been with my company, my production quota has tripled and is unsustainable. Every quarter has to make more money than the last, otherwise is failing. This is almost every single publicly traded company. Corners being cut, profits maximized, employees compromised. It's endlessly happening. The young child care industry. Increased regulation to make facilities safer. A very good thing. Had the unintended consequence of increasing costs for owners. You now need more teachers who have training and certification, not to mention the patience and stamina to work with young kids all day. The pay is comparable to fast food without the benefits. Owners have to find a way to pay teachers enough to retain them while keeping costs down so parents can afford to send their kids. It's damn near impossible without an infusion of government investments. I'm currently searching for a job and was shocked to see the local daycare was offering $14 an hour with no benefits to care for people's infants. A big gas station chain just built a new gas station in town and is paying $16 an hour and is offering 401k matching to ring up people's donuts and chips. Antibiotic effectiveness. Real people have no idea. Also poisons and pesticides. Resistance in general. This is exactly what I came to say. More terrifying than most are aware of. Literally all infrastructure in North America. The majority of underground infrastructure, pipes, water lines, sewer systems, has been completely ignored in terms of maintenance and has been totally ignored in terms of budgeting replacing the assets. There are towns that have coming bills of tens, hundreds of millions, not even mentioning larger cities, that have saved approximately 0% of the required amount by constantly pushing out the lifetime estimation of the assets. Lots and lots of bills are coming due shortly if the engineering estimates are accurate, and very few towns have saved anything for this scenario. We're basically living in a world where no one wants to be the person to say that we need to save money for long-term planning, and instead everyone hopes things don't fail while they are leading and they can pass the buck. The Garicinda, one of 2 remaining 12th century towers in Bologna, Italy. I saw them in April. It looks pretty ridiculous, to be honest. They have the area blocked off by some shipping containers because that tower's probably going to fall any day. It looks like there are some half-hearted restoration attempts happening, but no idea what their plan is. Just looked it up, and yeah, they don't look great. I wonder how shocked the builders would be if you told them that after 915 years they were still standing. Lots of things according to our collapse. Personally, I live in a city called Lol Ame. And there's the Rourke Bridge built 40 years ago that was meant to be temporary. Honestly, it reminds me of those horrible, scary bridges you've seen over rivers in Siberia or some other place in Central Asia. It's loud and bumpy, and you can feel the whole thing sway because it gets 25,000 cars crossing it. Not only that, you can actually walk under it since there's a river walk pathway it connects to, and you can see rusted sections just rotting away. About 6 months ago, a truck crossed it and a panel on the surface somehow seesawed up into the gas tank. The truck made it across, but not before losing probably 80 to 100 gallons of diesel onto the bridge and into the river below. The river had a marshy, swampy area near the bridge, and you could see the fuel slick eddying and collecting into that area. I can't imagine much survived underneath. I'm sure a lot of fish eggs and small aquatic animals died down there. The city, state, and feds have known this bridge needs replacing for decades, and they know about the rust and rot. But they continue to say that it will last for now. Don't they always say that though? There is a plan to make a new one next to it, but it won't be done until 2028, which we all know means it'll probably drag on into 2029, 2030, etc. I honestly don't think it will last that long. I don't know, but every time I go to a drugstore it feels like we lost a war. Without human intervention, your local energy grid is only about 6 to 24 hours away from complete collapse, depending on how greedy the utility company is in terms of automatic backups. The electricity grid will likely fail first and within hours. Other energy sources like city heat or natural gas will take longer because those rely less on active human inputs. You remember in the last of US TV show how Nick Offerman is in a Home Depot, the power goes out, and he remarks that was fast. That bit was much more accurate than anyone not involved in utilities would ever care to know about. The true American middle class. You are either upper middle class or working poor. The middle class has eroded steadily for at least 30 years. I heard someone say the only variable separating the middle class from the working poor now is that middle class are homeowners. Granted, that's a big generalization, but it kinda tracks, at least to me. Well, topsoil is getting super depleted. What used to be yards deep fertile soil is down to inches, washed or blown away due to agriculture and irrigation. A month ago, I was at my grandparents' house. For an inheritance issue, they called an architect. The first thing he told them is that they can no longer live in the house because it is at risk of collapse. That night, nobody slept. The fourth grader's little black market that they run from the girls' bathroom, I'm close to getting the kingpin. Nothing will get past this teacher. Update. Since some have asked, they sell Pokemon cards, pencils, snacks, and even sunglasses. I love that my students are quick enough to sell, but they have been guilty of price gouging. I want them to be driven, but not to be thieves. The education system. We have maybe 10 more years before a whole section of teachers retires, and then we're absolutely screwed. 50% of teachers quit within the first 5 years, and that statistic is much higher for SPED teachers. We aren't going to have anyone to work in the school. Get ready for your kids to be taught by an online program with a person who babysits 50 kids at one time and has no training. It's going to get bad fast, even faster in bad union states. And if you have a kid with a lot of support needs, truly I don't know what they'll do. I work with that population, and we currently are missing 2 teachers and 3 others are on emergency permits. It's a huge problem and keeps getting worse because the pay is so bad that no one wants to work with these students. I went to the hospital on Friday from a bite from a student, truly a manifestation of his disability, who desperately needs it too. But the district is making it impossible. I barely get to teach cause I'm putting out fires all day. Chrysler Dodge. Many dealers can't get rid of all their 2023 models from last year still sitting on the lot. Time to resurrect the K-car. You saved them in the 80s, and it can do it again. The Colorado River's water levels are dropping consistently and dropping fast. The Hoover Dam eventually won't be able to make electricity. There's so much that relies on the Colorado, and eventually it's all going to fall apart. So much farming, several major cities, tens of millions of people. They're either going to have to relocate or start importing water from elsewhere. On top of that, 53% of aquifers in the US are losing water. Thank you for watching till the end. Leave a comment what's a thing that is dangerously close to collapse that you know about.